Intellia Therapeutics trade at around $160 per share following fantastic last week. Beam Therapeutics, Editas, CRISPR Therapeutics and Verve all trade as well significantly higher based on this Intellia news. And if you're not familiar with CRISPR companies, you might be feeling like you missed this boat, but actually this is just the beginning of genomic revolution. And today I will discuss what's going to happen to Intellia next and my opinion on should you be buying right now at this 160 or wait for a better price. Let's dive in. Hello, my name is Marat, I'm a PhD student in medicinal chemistry, and on this channel I'm talking about biotech stocks. And if you're interested in this type of content, you're welcome to subscribe. And if you've been subscribed to me for some time, you might be wondering why I haven't been posting for some time. And here is my explanation. I was simply very busy finishing my thesis. Since this is the end of my PhD, I had to submit thesis, and I'm happy to share with you that I was able to submit it last week. And hopefully in a couple of months, I will be able to get my PhD and I will be called Dr. Marat. How cool is that? And if you want to know more about my project, you can comment under this video and I'll try to get back to you, or I will probably explain about my project in the next video if you would like me to do so. And as usual, this is not financial advice and I'm just sharing with you my opinion as I would share it with my friends. I'm not going to hold you hostage till the end of the video to tell you that I sold my position in Intellia at around $150 per share, and I will try to explain you why I believe this is not the best time to open new position in Intellia, at least in my opinion. Last week Intellia Therapeutics shared their first clinical data about their drug candidate NTLA 2001, and this data was so good that it was actually better than anybody anticipated. And as a result, share price just blew up from $80 up to $200 in the middle of the week at its highest point. And then it came down at 160 by the end of the week. And while the data is really good, I still believe that these companies that doesn't have any product on the market right now, and this NTLA might see the market in 4 or 5 years, I believe it's still too expensive because so much can happen in these next 4 or 5 years. And you might be wondering where I'm getting these 4 or 5 years from, because I've seen myself articles where Intellia CEO claiming that CRISPR drugs are very close to the market, but he didn't specify if it's 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and in general, if we're talking about the lifespan of human being, 5 years is not that long, it's actually quite close. And here is where I'm coming with this 4 or 5 years expectation. If we go to the clinical trials page for NTLA 2001, and this website is freely available to everyone, and you can get access to this data yourself without any problems. So, and if I'll scroll down to the timeline that's provided by Intellia itself, and it says that actual start date November 5th, 2020, so it's been like around half a year since this clinical trial started. And then we can see that completion date, primary completion date, is just basically some data will be accumulated, and study completion date March 2024. So they're saying that these clinical trials will be completed on 2024 in March. And then we have to take into account that after phase 1, normally phase 2 and phase 3 required before drug can reach the market. And even if we assume that FDA will be happy with only phase 1 and then they will ask for some follow-up data after the approval, and it can happen sometimes, but even if we'll take into account phase 1, it's still March 2024, and this is a lot of time. And after this, FDA still need to review this data. So just based on this clinical trials page, I would say that earliest approval date will be in the beginning of 2025, based on the finishing of these clinical trials, and then sometimes it will be required for FDA to go through the clinical data and then make a decision on approval. And we have to take into account that until this approval is going to happen, Intellia doesn't have any products to sell, and this approval is unlikely to happen before 2025. or late 2024. So we have to take this into account. And then talking about the clinical trials for NTLA 2001 and this data that was released. It was released just after half a year of observation, which is relatively short period of time. And it was done only on 6 people. So you can imagine that this amount of data that they were able to generate in half a year on 6 people is very limited. Now, as we established that Intellia Therapeutics most likely will need at least 4 years to push this drug to the market, let's see what happened to CRISPR Therapeutics share price when they announced very positive clinical data for CTX001. So they made an announcement in December, and in anticipation of this announcement, you can see that share price was already climbing significantly. Then they made the announcement and share price just keep climbing, and eventually in January it reached 210. And after CRISPR Therapeutics share price reached its high in the middle of January, it went down quite a lot, and at the bottom it hit $100 in May. And nothing bad happened in this period of time between January and May. It was just a general sell-off for some more speculative stocks that doesn't have any profits right now. Because Intellia doesn't have any profit, it's not going to be profitable for at least 4 years. Same story for CRISPR Therapeutics, but CRISPR Therapeutics actually closer to profitability because they started clinical trials significantly earlier, a couple of years earlier than Intellia, so they will be able to bring drug to the market at least 2 years before Intellia. And then CRISPR Therapeutics, after hitting $100 per share in May, start rising back again. And thanks to news from Intellia as well, you can see that just in the June alone, in the last 2 weeks, from $120 all the way up to $160 as a peak on 30th of June, and then it just went down a little bit at $155 per share. In my opinion, Intellia Therapeutics has high chance to repeat same share price movement as did CRISPR Therapeutics here. And even CRISPR Therapeutics, when it was rising, it wasn't rising just within 1 week. It was rising like over the months at least to all-time highs. But even with the recent rise in CRISPR Therapeutics price, it's still far behind 52 weeks high. So, and I'm saying that most likely we'll see cool off and some sell off and taking profit from Intellia later on in next couple of weeks or probably couple of months. And then it will be definitely more attractive share price to buy for long term. And this is just my opinion. It may never happen actually. And just to play devil's advocate for my version of what's going to happen to this share price movement, I'm saying that most likely it will go down. But on the other hand, if you look at the calendar, some other news are coming later this year. Editors will be releasing data, Beam Therapeutics will be filing IND for their drug candidate, and some other news may be happening from CRISPR Therapeutics as well, because they will be releasing new data at the end of the year as well. And this news may be just reinforcing this sentiment that CRISPR Therapeutics and Intellia Therapeutics and all the rest of the companies are worth buying and holding for the long term. And as a result, we may not see $160 per share as we see it right now anytime soon, or maybe never. I personally would start buying Intellia Therapeutics at around $120 per share, or maybe $100, 10 per share. Or if it's going to go even lower than that, then I will definitely buy more. But full disclosure that I didn't sell my other CRISPR companies, and they didn't rise as much as Intellia, and I believe they within a reasonable range of the price. And maybe if you're looking to buy some CRISPR stocks, I would suggest that it's better to pay attention to other companies compared to Intellia right now, because they're not as hot right now, and Intellia is just overpriced in my opinion. And I know that I'm trying to time the market here, and most often than not, it's not a good idea to time the market, and I know it, but still I'm willing to take this risk, and also I find it interesting to see how this video will age in half a year time or in 4 years, and how accurate my prediction about approval in 4 years. Maybe it will be approved next year, who knows. As I said, I'm just guessing based on the data that I can see on clinical trials. That's it for today's video. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.